Alrighty, good morning. We're in Notes 1 of Unit 9, diving deeper into what functions really are. So, in the previous unit we had the function equation. We had y equals mx plus b. We're going to be diving deeper into that equation in this unit, but we're going to be doing a simpler form of it. Simply, y equals mx. Now, it looks straightforward, and it is, but there's really a lot to understand here. Basically, anything that involves a change over time is a function. And the best way to see that is with an example. So, let's start with some example. You got a job that pays $11 per hour. Before taxes, how much money will you make after 1 hour of work? Well, $11. After 2 hours of work, you make 22. After 3 hours of work, you make 33. After 4, you make 44. And then eventually you get bored of writing all these out. See, it starts easy, but eventually it gets really annoying, and there's an easier way to do this. We use a function. So this function, y equals mx, is just an input and an output. We plug in hours, and we get out money. Is just pay times hour. So I'm going to say money equals pay times hour. Hours. Well, we can also graph this, because if I work 1 hour, I make $11. If I work 2 hours, I make 22. 3 hours, I make 33. 4 hours, I work 44, and so on. I'm going to call this bottom axis hours. I'm going to call this axis on my side money. Now, this is really my x-axis. This is really my y-axis. So to make things easy, I can just write y equals pay, which is 11, times x. So, I plug in hours to my x. Let's say I work 5 hours. 5 times 11 gives me 55. So, I would put a dot at 5 and 55. 6 gives me 66. And instead of having to do all these calculations, all I have to do instead is look at a line to tell me how much money I make. This also allows me to check some big stuff too. Let's say I work 40 hours. Well, all I have to do is do y equals 11x, and then plug in 40. I end up doing 40 times 11, and then I work 400, and I get $440 for 40 hours of work. Let's say I worked 1 month. I plug 170 into 11x. I do 11 times 170, and that gives me, I use a calculator, $1,870. If I worked for 1 month at $11 per hour, I'll make $1,870. So, here's what we did. We're going to look at all real quick with another example here at the bottom. Let's say we run at 7 miles per hour. How many miles do you go in 1 hour, 2 hours, etc.? Well, I would say 7 miles after 1 hour, 14 miles after 2 hours. But instead of writing all of these, I'm going to turn this into a y equals mx equation. Y, which is going to be distance, equals 7 times x, which is hours. If I go down here and graph it, if I run for 0 hours, I go 0 miles. If I run for 1 hour, I go 7 miles. If I run for 2 hours, I go 14 miles. If I run for 3 hours, I run for 21 miles. 4 hours, I go 28. And then once I have a line, I know for any number of hours. So, at 3 hours, I go 21 miles. For 4 hours, I go 28 miles. And let's say I want to know how far I go in 24 hours. I take 24, I plug it into x, and I multiply by 7. Now let's use my calculator to figure that out. I'm going to do 24 times 7. 24 times 7 gives me 168 miles. And that is the power of functions. In the next set of notes, we're going to dive a little more into functions, talk about positive and negative lines, and go on from there. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.